All right. Welcome to day 19, I think it is, of our 30-day YouTube challenge. We tried to do a Business Munchies recording right now while on YouTube live simultaneously. Did not work out.
Bombed.
Bombed it. So we deleted that episode and we are re-recording this. Okay, so today's episode is going to be about the expert network industry. It is a $1.5 billion industry. I can't believe it. And it's fairly new. It's barely like 10 years old, this entire industry. And we're going to do a deep dive into what that industry is and what the opportunities are to get into that industry. Before we do that, if you're listening, please like, please subscribe, please comment, please tell us what you want to hear. We do daily episodes about how you can build a business, how you can make more money through a side hustle, or these kind of business topics. So let's dive right into it. Expert networks, what are they, and who is leading this industry? So Siddharth, what is an expert network? You have worked with them before. What has
Yes.
been your experience?
Yeah. So put simply, expert networks are a way for organizations to connect with certain individuals that might have knowledge about a particular industry, about a particular company, and sort of do the matchmaking. A great example of where this is needed is it started out with hedge fund managers wanting to talk to certain people within the company, trying to understand more about the company for their investment. It's obviously expanded into much more, and we're going to deep dive into that. But that's the core logic. I was approached for the fintech company that I was working for, just to talk about the fintech, industry, SME fintech industry in general, just to get an understanding from somebody who's in the space. And I got paid for it. So 1 hour of my time, and I got 10,000 rupees for it. So it was a sweet deal, I guess.
So basically, these are people with a bunch of money and they're thinking of investing a ton of money into some company. And before they do that, they're going to spend 0.01% of their investment, random number, into figuring out what that industry is and whether that industry actually makes sense, right? That's essentially what it is.
That's how it started out. It's evolved into different things now.
Yeah.
So for example, what I heard, and I don't know if I can validate this, but news publications, the Ken and stuff like that, they do deep dive on particular companies. They tend to use these networks to talk to somebody within the company also. So that's another use case. A bunch of use cases have opened up for this industry.
Yeah. So the biggest company in this industry, and probably one of the people who started this industry, is a company called GLG. It is an American company. It has revenues of $500 million a year. It's a pretty big company. The second largest is a company called AlphaSIghts. They do about $200 million a year. And I had actually applied to them for a job when I was finishing my master's. They didn't take me. I was quite disappointed, actually. It was the
So
first time I did a video interview. Actually, sorry. Anyway, go on.
these businesses sound like they're in the business of providing insights, and this is a feature. Like expert networks is part of the feature, or is this the core business?
This is the core business, from what I understand.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So they do a bunch of matchmaking of, yeah, like you said, like if somebody is looking for some information, they will find the person who has that information for you.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think they do also market research as well, but I think this is one of their core offerings, the matchmaking. And this is what I was reading, right? Is that earlier, if you wanted to find an expert in a field, and this is actually a problem that the SMEs in India still face, is that if you have an issue, finding an expert to solve that issue for you takes a
Yeah.
ton of time.
Yeah.
I've faced this issue many times where I've had some problem at work and I needed to solve it and I could not find the right person. I
Yeah.
would go on LinkedIn, I would put in some keywords and I'd find somebody. They wouldn't always be the best person.
Exactly.
Um,
And you know what happens on LinkedIn is you end up finding these consultants who are in the business of like providing consulting in this
yeah.
particular topic. They might not be the right people to talk to. You want to talk to someone who's actually done this, been there,
Yeah.
all of that.
The incentives for consultants is not the same thing as the incentives for somebody who's in the industry and is just happy to help,
Yeah.
right? So it's very different incentives. So these are the big American companies, AlphaSights and GLG. But they're not very big in India. In India, India itself has some companies that have come up pretty big in this industry. So there were a couple that I was able to find. There's one called Experts Networks. Very
Innovative. That
innovative,
name.
very innovative name. I found another one called NextynSights. It's an Indian company. Then I found another one called CleverX. I found this on Forbes. Forbes said that this was an Indian company. Siddharth found another Forbes article that said it was a Middle Eastern company. So I don't know where it's from.
But it is, they have a significant presence in India.
Yeah, they have a significant presence in India. So there are a couple of ideas that come to my mind from this. First of all, this industry is growing at a rate of 20% per year. So that means this is a
you know why this is happening? You know why this is happening? I was just thinking about it, right? Like this whole thing about creator economy is sort of, booming up. And what it is basically ways to earn money independently, right? And this is a great way to monetize the knowledge that you've built over the last few years. You get paid for it, right? If it's a hot topic, for example, one of the things that I can think of, one of the use cases that I don't know if it's being tapped into, let's say people who were at Ola when it was scaling up significantly fast, right? There are a bunch of things that you need to figure out when you're scaling up. The organization structure, how are you spending and where are you spending money on in terms of performance marketing and different types of marketing and stuff like that. Somebody who's been there and seen it live will know what works and what doesn't work, right? Now let's think of another company that's going through the scaling right now. Let's say Misho, right? They raised a bunch of money right now and they're going to go through that process of scaling very fast. If they could talk to a few people, other than obviously hiring some people who've been there, that's not always possible. But if you could talk to some of those people from different companies who've seen this rapid scaling, you can build a point of view on what to do and what not to do. You can basically learn from them, right? That could be a huge use case in itself.
Yeah. I agree with you. So it's growing for whatever reason. It initially started with investment bankers and hedge funds using it. Now I think a lot of people are using it. Journalists, startups, a lot of people. But you know who's not using it?
SMEs. Yeah.
And it is a problem in the SME ecosystem as well. Finding experts, finding the right people to talk to. And now this is going to go into what I think are two major opportunities. Number one is breaking down the expert network by niche. When I say niche, I mean by industry niche, and secondly by region. GLG and AlphaSIghts are both very US and UK centric. Can you build something that is very regional specific? India is kind of like, there are a couple of players, but I'm sure there's room to play still in India. And secondly, if you're going to do India, and it's already kind of done, then why not do it in a particular niche in India? So you can do it specifically for hydroponics in India, for example. This is an issue that Siddharth faced. It's an issue that a couple of other friends I know have faced, is that finding a good hydroponics expert is very, very, very tough.
So for example, I think I would love to talk to Mayank, who we've hosted on the podcast. It's going to come on our Hindi podcast. He runs Landcraft Agro, which is into hydroponics, right? And he's one of those people. He's like, I'm happy to help anybody who wants to learn about hydroponics. Now, incentivize him so that when he's giving out his time, he's getting paid for it, and make it easy for people to find him, discover him, and all of that, right? Another niche that I can think of, by the way, it might not be like a super niche, but exports, such a complicated topic, right? If you can have people who have been, in other countries, who've sort of exported from India, who've imported from India, I guess, people who can help with clearance and all of that. Just one conversation on how to structure your processes, what are the things to think about. Not consultants, again, not consultants. These are experts who've been there, done that.
The big difference between consultants and these experts is that these experts are operational. They're still doing it. Their consultants, their incentive is for it to take as long as possible.
And upsell.
That they can. And
like upsell. The first call is going to be about, I can help you with XYZ. The second call is going to be about, I can help you so much more.
So exactly. Because these experts, they want to do it because they're getting money, and because they like helping people. For whatever reason. So number one is go into a niche, go into a region, right? That's number one. Secondly, I think go down the value chain. because these expert networks, they charge crazy amount of money. Um, I have friends, okay, who's been in manufacturing for 20 years in Bombay, and he charged, I think, around $500 per hour on this expert network. I was listening to a podcast, and the guy on the podcast was like, "Yeah, I charge $1,000 per hour on this expert network." So they're super duper expensive, and an SME cannot afford $500 an hour to talk to somebody, and they don't know whether they will get benefit out of it or not. So I think there is a way to go down the stream, perhaps. Maybe it can be a group call, or perhaps it can be somebody who's not as insightful. I don't know. What do you think,
Yeah.
Mo?
Um, One of the first things that I thought of when you go downstream is you'll end up getting a lot of people who want to start up in this industry, who want to do something in this space, right? Who want to expand their existing business into this space, or just legit start up in this space, right? Um, I don't know the, like, principally should you be charging them or not, but I do agree that from a person who's helping out and giving out time, it's a nice incentive to have, right? I'm 100% sure this money doesn't change their life. The friend that you were talking about, $500 is not going to change his life, but it's an incentive for the time that he's put out, right? Downstream, we can do it, right? Like technically, we get a lot of requests because of the trend articles that we cover on. Let's say somebody wants to explore the plant-based meat sector, right? We get articles on, like, hey, we get requests on, can you connect me to XYZ person, right? We just connect and, like, move on, right? Somebody could technically monetize this entire thing by saying that I'm going to connect you to the right people because I've done the research, and hey, you know what, you get additional research on top of it. So if you're starting up, if you want to explore this industry, there's written content, there's audio content, there's one-on-one connections that we can do. So this could be a service right there.
Yeah, yeah. I think this space is still growing fast. I think there's still a lot of opportunity to build in this space, and I think it should not be ignored because it's not a sexy business, right? It's people don't really think about it or talk about it, but in the end, it's part of a much larger industry, which is the B2B information services industry or the B2B consulting industry. So B2B consulting is like $200 billion. B2B information services is like $100 billion, and
Yeah.
this is only 1.5 billion right now. It can become much larger than it is right now. People are moving more towards freelancing. People want side gigs. People want side hustles. So that means there'll be more experts who will be doing this.
Exactly. I think that's what's missing in this thing is not a lot of people who have this knowledge know about this as an opportunity, because there's no business that's really figuring out the supply side of things, right? Everybody's focused on, like, can we get more hedge fund managers? Can we expand into these B2Bs, right? If somebody can build a platform that can get experts onto this network, somebody in the US has started doing this. The company is called officehours.com, which is where you can go log in and put a profile saying that this is what you're an expert at, and people can just directly sort of connect with you on the platform. Something like that in India could work, where in the last 10-15 years people have had very interesting experiences in terms of building things, right? So many interesting startups have happened, so much interesting stuff has happened. Can you get these people on a platform so that they can share their knowledge and monetize it? I think possible.
In fact, one of my friends has done this specifically for academic researchers. So he's built a website called collabtree.com, collab with a K. And it's specifically with academics who have academic knowledge in a certain field. You can hire them per hour to help you solve some industry issue that you're having.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So it's happening, but there's still a lot of space. And my last thing I will end with: marketplaces are a tough business, because marketplaces, you have to build both the supply and the demand. It is tough, but if you can figure
Crack
out,
it.
crack a marketplace, you will have all the money in the world.
Yeah.
But cracking it is tough.
There's a
Anyway,
bunch of interesting reading on marketplaces. Lenny's newsletter, by the way, details out the marketplace in four editions, actually. If you're thinking about marketplace businesses, definitely check that out.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you want, and please tell Siddharth to share